Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wrestling Royalty. Of course, we're here on a Friday night, as always, and I am joined by the wonderful Sam Smith. How are you doing, Sam? How's it going?
All right, mate. Busy week. And once again, I'm looking a bit orange. I might try and fix that, but that might just be on my side. But I look like a baby Donald Trump.
A
I
baby
need to
Donald
fix this.
Trump.
Yeah, that's a
Nice.
horrible
Or a
thought.
full-grown Oompa Loompa.
I like that.
We'll see if we can get Sam to sing the Oompa Loompa song at some point tonight, but let's start off with a big flashy intro.
Yeah.
As I said at the top of the show, welcome to Wrestling Royalty. I almost completely lisp my own title there with Wrestling Royalty. But as always, pleasure to be here on a Friday night, and thank you very much for joining us. Or if you're watching this in the future, thank you very much for checking out the channel and the video. Really appreciate it. And straight off the bat, we'll say get yourself subscribed. We've got a lot of good content coming up, especially with 1 week removed away from a massive weekend in UK wrestling. When WWE hits our shores for SmackDown on Friday, 1 week tonight, and then followed by on Saturday night, a week tomorrow, Money in the Bank, which is what we're going to be covering mainly tonight. We'll try and cover off a little bit of AEW Forbidden Door because that is this weekend as well. So we'll see how we get on. But yeah, the main focus tonight is going to be what is on that card at the moment for Money in the Bank. Could we see any more matches added? We'll go through all that kind of stuff, who's going to win each match, and all the talking points going into what promises to be a massive show inside the O2 next week in London. So before we get any further, Sam, I'm going to ask you, how are you doing? What you got going on at the moment? Because I would like to share on the random channels that I've got to do and do all that kind of good work. So Sam, how's your week been?
Excuse me. It's been a very, very busy week writing about video games, mostly Diablo 4, a little bit of Final Fantasy 16, and a little bit of AEW Fight Forever. So yeah, that's been my week. A world of video games. I was on. I think you were on the day before me. I was on the press call for AEW yesterday. Last night, that was interesting. It was. Sadly, my question didn't come up, which is a shame because it usually does, but. Didn't this time, but and it wasn't a massive, huge amount of news came from that press conference. Really, it wasn't even many articles came from it. I thought it was quite a bit of a nothing press call compared to some of the others. There were a couple of shots thrown at Ariel Helwani that made me laugh, but other than that, it was a bit of a non-event. But so yeah, I've been doing a bit of wrestling journalism. Oh, I did book. Got to tell you, so like, obviously you and I are going to be at SmackDown, and we're going to be at Money in the Bank, and we're going to be there working. We're going to be there as press, not going to be there as fans, so we can't get wasted. That's annoying. But anyway, but that's true. Yeah, we fought quite hard to get on that press list.
Yeah.
But anyway, I booked randomly with Jess to go and see WWE house show in Liverpool on Wednesday. So I'm quite excited for that. I've never been to a house show before. Done plenty of pay-per-views, SmackDowns, Raws, NXT. Never done a house show. So fancy that. I'm looking forward to it.
I did see they were sending an email out about buying tickets for the Liverpool, Sheffield and Newcastle shows, which are all on the Raw side of things. And they did say there was a double main event, which they seem to love to do these days, one of which will be Seth Rollins defending his World Heavyweight title. And I think the other one was a street fight with Cody Rhodes and maybe Finn Balor. I thought it was Damien Priest. Yeah, Finn Balor. That makes sense.
Yeah, I've seen two different cards for this show. I've seen one that is kind of a do-over of the Money in the Bank card 2 or 3 days before it happens. So which I was a bit like, huh? But the card that really excited us was Seth. I think it was Seth versus Priest. I could be wrong. And then Balor versus Cody in a street fight. And we're big Balor stands in my house. I say that we're Cody stands too. But we thought, oh hell yeah, we're getting on that. That's going to be an awesome event. Let's do it. So we're very much hoping that is indeed the event. Jess will be very excited too. Jess, my wife, who is a real person, not just an advanced AI, by the way.
Well, I hope you enjoy that. But I'm very much excited to meet up with yourself and Dom next week as well. So we will be down. I'm sure you'll get some content of the three of us being in a hotel room, or maybe even Sam and myself driving at some point, because we have a long drive on Thursday and after on the Saturday as well. So we'll try and make it interesting. We'll try and get some content for either our channel or Give Me a Hug, yeah, or both. Because it's a long way. So let's bring it in.
I was going to say, mate, if for the hotel content, you can only get that on OnlyFans. Everything else you can get on Wrestling Royalty, Give Me Holy Air, and WrestleSphere.
That's right, yeah, because there's definitely, that's definitely a thing. I think it will be what is it, top 0.1%.
Speak for yourself, mate. Right at the top. No, I won't be. I don't even know fully what Tinder is, because I've been married longer than it's existed. So
yes.
You know, so I'm like, my dog is barking at something.
Your dog is calling you a liar.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking about Money in the Bank, but I will tease for everyone. I do have a bit of an announcement at the end of this. So when we get through everything, I teased it last week. I teased a little bit on my own Facebook yesterday. I am going to make an announcement at the end of this. It's very exciting. So when we get there, bear with us. You've got to go for a bit of wrestling to get there, a lot of wrestling. But it's very exciting. So stay tuned to the end for a big announcement from myself. But as you can see here, with Big Ben in the background, or actually I think is it Elizabeth Tower it's actually called, rather than Big Ben, because that's the bell, right?
Mate, I've lived in the UK 35 and a half years, and because I was born here, and I've always just bloody called it Big Ben. I couldn't give a stuff about what the tower's called. As far as I'm concerned, I know the bell is Big Ben and the tower is Elizabeth Tower, but my God, I'm calling
it Big Ben. It's fine. But yeah, as you can see, there are some ladders, if you look closely, propped up against Big Ben or the tower there, with Seth Rollins looking, I don't know what he's looking like, Shania Twain in a, that doesn't impress me much. Video or something, I don't know. He could pull that off, really, let's face it. So Money in the Bank, at the moment there's only 5 matches been announced, so it's quite a tight card. People are expecting there to maybe be one more match added, and we'll cover that at the end, just in case we do think there's anything to come on either SmackDown tonight or on Monday Night Raw as well. So the order I've put the card and the order I put the slide, here, that will kind of tell you what's on the card is what I personally think the card is going to be. Not that it definitely will be. There's reasons why I think it would be the way I put it down. But we'll see on the night. Yeah, obviously we'll wait, and that's a big thing these days. It seems to be when we're waiting for a premium live event under Triple H's creativity. He does seem to create a bit of intrigue about what might go on first, what might go on last, where things place on the card, which is great because it just adds another aspect of anticipation to the night. So to start things, I think we're going to hit straight away with the ladder match. I'm not sure if you agree, but the reason for this is tied quite heavily to what I think will be the main event as well. So we're going to talk about the what is now a 7-man Money in the Bank ladder match, and we went through a couple of weeks ago 3 of the people who were on it, which is LA Knight, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Ricochet. Since then, you can see on the back row we've got Damian Priest, we've got Pete Dunne or Butch, whatever you want to kind of call him. We've got Legado del Fantasma's own Santos Escobar. And on Monday, we added Logan Paul, much to the chagrin of what I would imagine is most wrestling fans. Even though he is a good wrestler, it's just a bit strange for him to be added the way he was because everyone else earned their way on. But Logan Paul, being Logan Paul, he's got some pull. He gets in where he wants to get in. So let's start with this one. What are your thoughts on the lineup? Are you excited for this match? On a kind of scale of 1 to 10, where's the anticipation levels for you, Sam?
I've seen Money in the Bank matches with more star power. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
I have. But there's some really, really good workers in there and some, and it's an interesting blend of, dare I say, mid-carders or upper mid-carders. Like, this isn't the Roman Reigns, is the Seth Rollins and the Finn Balor's at the moment, and they're the guys who are kind of at the top, I'd say, of the main roster. Kevin Owens as well, Sami Zayn. They're the ones who are up there at the top. These are the guys who are just a mild tier beneath. So it makes sense, I suppose, to have them in the Money in the Bank match. But I do miss the days where the AJ Styles and the Rey Mysterios and that sort of crew were in there too. Like Logan Paul, obviously he's a big star. I think he's definitely got a place in wrestling. I've never seen a bad match with him. I'm wrapped by his promos. I boo him. I've cheered him. I booed him. So I enjoy having Logan Paul wheeled out for the big pay-per-views. I enjoyed seeing him at Mania, so I'm fine with that. A couple of people, like the Misfit Wrestling Podcast, believes Pete Dunne has got this one in the bag. I really hope he doesn't. I hope Pete puts in the really, really plucky babyface performance, but comes up short. Damian Priest and Santos Escobar and Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, all four of them I think are awesome wrestlers. I think they're all going to put in a good showing. Usually Ricochet and Finn Balor are in this match and they absolutely annihilate each other. They always do. Every year, if they're in there, they always just kill each other. So Ricochet is going to have to just break his body with somebody else. Eli Drake, LA Knight is who I want to win because I love the idea of him holding the briefcase and coming out cutting heel promos. But I also like the idea of Logan Paul doing that too. I think that would be an absolute heat magnet. I'd enjoy it. Not quite Dominic Mysterio levels of heat, but my God, imagine he was in the match. That'd be insane.
We will see him, just not in this particular one.
Agreed. But I'm kind of like, I really, all I hope is, I'll get to the point. I hope they don't stick it on a babyface, Andy. That is what I hope, because I think the Money in the Bank briefcase with a babyface is boring. Boring on Otis, but he was putting ham in it. What was that about? Braun Strowman telling people when he's going to cash in because he's a good dude. What are you on about, mate? Like, cash in, just do it after. Like, if you really, really want to do it honorably, cash in at the start of the match before anybody's hurt. Don't stand around until the end of the match looking like a knob and then cash in on the winner afterwards. What are you doing? Like, it was just a crap storyline. Stick it on either LA Knight or Logan Paul and have them go like Austin Theory did last year. Wonderful stuff. Do that again, please.
Yeah, fair points. Just to say, we've got Martin in with us tonight. So hey, evening to Martin, and he is, I think, on the similar lines to yourself there. Expect LA Knight to take the dub, but I have feelings towards Priest winning, which seems to be a bit of a theme. I have seen people say that they're really excited by the idea of Damian Priest winning and there being a little bit of tension between him and Finn Balor, and that kind of creating that storyline over there within Judgment Day.
Yeah, Judgment Day.
So there's that aspect, and obviously there is a match later on which could make things really spicy if Priest were to win, and so does Balor. That would be an interesting way to go down that route. We could also see a potential cash in on the night, so it'd be interesting to see if we do kind of have what I think is the opening match, and then spoiler alert, I think the main event is going to be Seth versus Finn. Because I think they'll heavily tease a cash in on the night. So yeah, it's LA Knight seems to be the one that everyone's pulling for. And it's interesting you said there is that you obviously want to see it on a heel. And I agree. I think Money in the Bank is definitely something that works better on a heel because it's the kind of, if you're a good guy, it's a bit of a shady way to win a title and it doesn't really do much for you. But if you're a bad guy, it's perfect because you can kind of just do nefarious things and jump in where you want to, which might be the reason why LA Knight hasn't been moved to be, embrace that full babyface yet. He will still throw in the odd heel comment because I don't think they want to go down that route. But there's an argument to say that all 7 people here can easily be faces or heels, really, and they can do what they want.
Sorry to jump in, mate. Yeah, it's interesting that you've said that because Ricochet has been behaving like a bit heelish recently towards Shinsuke.
Yeah,
I get he's justified in it because there's been a misunderstanding between him and Shinsuke, which Bronson Reed has caused. Good storytelling, but Ricochet has been not very cozy recently. But where Damian Priest has been a little bit more babyface-ish, wanting to do stuff on his own, and it wouldn't surprise me if maybe Finn Balor might interfere in this somehow and maybe cost it for Priest, perhaps, because Balor is actually quite wary that if Priest wins it, he could cash in on him. if he wins the heavyweight championship. But at the same time, where Finn Balor is, I know we'll come to that match later. I know where Finn Balor is the heel in his feud. I've actually felt like he's the good guy in many ways. He's felt justified. He's some of the things Seth has said to him have been below the belt. So there's some weird tweener dynamics going on. With LA Knight, he's a babyface who just remembers to run down the crowd now and then. Do you know what I mean? Like that is, everybody's a little bit tweenery. And apart from perhaps Shinsuke and Logan Paul, who's very much cemented as a heel.
Yeah, that's true. So I know you said who you want to win. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, I've heard different reports. I've heard one report claiming, I'm not that I'm trying to spoil it for anybody, but I've heard, I don't believe either report, by the way. I don't think either of them are particularly well sourced. But I've got one source saying Logan Paul's going to win it. I've heard another source saying Pete Dunne's going to win it. But you're kind of selling me on Damian Priest as well. So I think they've layered that one a lot. But this is classic WWE. The more they layer something, the less their chances is they're going to actually pull the trigger on it.
Mm. Yeah, it's an interesting one because I do think this is the first match in a while where there's no outstanding favourite. Because I think there's so many people and theories that could happen where any of them win, really. The only one I would be a little bit surprised by is Santos winning it and possibly Ricochet. There would be odd choices. But there's definitely arguments to be had for the other five that are there. But even then, still say that Pete Dunne would be a massive shot. And I guess that's part of the reason why this is such an intriguing match is because in the past you've had star power, whereas on this it's very much these are probably mid-card guys, if people are being honest right now, but put a Money in the Bank contract in their hand and any one of them could get boosted straight into the main event, especially with the new belt with Seth that Seth's holding as well. So there's a chance to be a world champion. So if I was kind of putting my money on anyone, personally, I would probably go with I'm going to go with LA Knight. I think they will go with LA Knight. I would say wild card is Logan Paul being in there. The only reason why I think there's two reasons why he could be in there. One is because all the other six guys are basically going to fill him in, and it gets the O2 crowd really pumped because it will just be a case of him getting absolutely pummeled. He'll probably do a couple of like crazy stunts because we've seen it before. He doesn't have much regard for his own body, or he's going to do that really sneaky thing of everyone else being kind of knocked out around him and he'll be the one that's left standing and they get that reaction because they want him to be booed. I think the British crowd would happily go after him in terms of being vocal. Let us know who you think is going to win this match. Let us know in the comments and who do you want to win? Who do you think will win? Does that differ at all? Martin is definitely putting his colours on the flag.
Yeah,
the big which every time I hear that word now, which is a very common word, I can't help but hear it as LA Knight's voice.
I've been banned from doing it in the house now. I've been banned from going, do you want a cup of tea? Yeah! I've been banned from doing that.
We'll do it as loud as you want in
sorry, Andy. I've got a confession as well, mate. My wife, you might have seen me chatting off screen, has just brought me another cup of tea, but she's reused that same mug. So I'll do my best to drink it stealthily because I don't want to get us banned from YouTube. It has a naughty word on the bottom of the mug, guys, beginning with T. But we're gonna try and not show that on screen.
Some people might use that word to describe Dominic Mysterio. I'll use that as a segue.
Savage.
He gets a good reaction from the crowd in terms of like, let's face it, if you either have an idea of being a superstar, you either want to get booed or you want to get cheered. That's your job, is to elicit some sort of emotion. And right now, Dominic Mysterio is getting booed to hell. And they've put him against someone who's getting the complete opposite reaction in Cody Rhodes. And I think most people, and including Martin, are probably gearing up to sing their lungs out to Downstate's theme for Cody Rhodes. So what do you think of this match? Do you think this is a match that we should have seen on like a weekly show, or is this a premium live event quality match?
No. To the second one. Yeah. Oh no, don't worry. You know me. I'm Mr. Elaborate. This to me is a SmackDown match because where both guys are really good. Dominic Mysterio is one of the most improved wrestlers ever. I used to think that Dominic Mysterio, once his dad retires, he's going to have to kind of scuttle off. But no, not at all. This guy has got a big career in front of him, providing he stays healthy and everything's okay. There's so many things Dom can do. Even when he inevitably turns face again, my God, the sky's the limit. But right now, I want to see Cody have a good match against someone, not someone who's going to keep leaving the ring and he's going to have to chase. Someone whose job is to behave squirrely and cowardly. I don't think we're going to get a match out of this. I think it's going to be a few spots and a bit of storytelling, and then Brock Lesnar's going to come out and kill Cody. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. Since WrestleMania and that entrance that Dom had, I think he's reached superstar level, whereas before people were like, the guy should have been on NXT, he should have had a bit more like training, and he's kind of had to learn on the job. But making him this heel character, which let's remember happened last time WWE were in the UK at Clash of the Castle. So it's been great having him, having him in this heel mode, and he's just got stronger and stronger each week. The fact he can just hold a microphone up to his face and start getting that emotion from the crowd, you can't downplay that at all. And as you said, there's chances for him to kind of move to be a face in the future, but right now he's doing a great job. But in terms of Cody, they've kind of got to get through this sticky patch, I guess, where they didn't have enough dates for Brock Lesnar maybe to be around, or there was something going on, or they're just waiting for some different opportunity to progress the story into SummerSlam, which you might see a Money in the Bank if Brock's going to be around. But as Martin said, I have to be honest with when Money in the Bank was announced, Cody versus Dom would never have crossed my mind. Brock to interfere and cost Cody. I think that's what most people are kind of suspecting is going to happen, because let's face it, if Brock interferes and gives Dom a victory, it means Dom can just crow on for the next however long that he beat Cody Rhodes, and it gives him a kudos. And it also, quite frankly, he could just have a title shot and say, I beat Cody, I'm going to answer an open challenge or something, or I should be number one contender. It just gives him that proper heel heat again that you did, but Brock helped you massively. Fully expect to see Brock. I'll be shocked if we don't.
Sorry, mate, go on.
Go on.
They could generate some heat on the house show circuit. I'm interested to see what they do on Wednesday night. I'm interested to see if Dom interferes in Cody and Balor's match, if that is indeed the card. Because there's no DQ, so Dom could get involved and make some squirrely little attacks on Cody, and Finn could capitalize, and that'd be a good way of protecting Cody, having him take the L, but then Finn looking strong going into his fight with Rollins at which could be the main event. So because they seem to be quite high on Balor at the moment, be interesting to see where that ends up with a belt or not.
Yeah, so I would imagine Sam might be posting some stuff, so stay tuned to his Twitter feed. No pressure there, but I'm sure he'll put a couple of pictures out from his experience in Liverpool.
Me, I live on Twitter these days, so
There you go. So stay tuned to @SamSmith_1987, and you'll get some. I'm sure you'll get some. I think Liverpool's the first day, isn't it? Right, Liverpool.
I think so. Yeah. Don't confuse me with the more famous Sam Smith. There's actually been a fair few of us, but it's too late to change my name. I'm pushing 40. What am I going to do? I think it's an interesting house show circuit. We kind of did it. We booked it on the fly because we thought it'd be interesting. And this is like the only event. I haven't brought my wife to a wrestling event since Clash at the Castle, so this would be pretty cool. It was going to be a bit of a wrestling date night. But then I've inevitably reached out to the PR team, so let's see what happens. I thought, I'd have a punt, but
see what happens. It should be good. I think more than anything, it will get the crowd going on this one. So I expect to see it quite early on to make sure that the crowd is fully invested into this match. Quite surprisingly, then, to maybe some people, I've gone for the sort of middle match being the Bloodline Civil War. The reason why I did that, I personally think when you look back at Triple H's takeover cards in particular, they were very kind of peaks and troughs. He likes to pick people up, and there's not necessarily stakes in this, but there's a lot of emotion, and obviously this has been the kind of culmination of months worth of storylines, and I'm sure we'll get a little bit more tonight before heading in next week. So yeah, maybe strange to some people, but I don't think this is going to main event. I firmly see it being in the middle of the card, and this, again, we'll explain the reasons why. But we are getting Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus the Usos in a Bloodline Civil War, which I presume is just a tag match, but they've just put on like a nice tagline on it, like they sometimes do. Who will be the ones? Sam, tell us who will be the ones and who will be the twos.
See, it's a tag match, but it's a tag match with a hell of a lot of storyline and heat behind it. So this might be the match I'm most interested to see, which is weird because as much as I like tag team wrestling, it's always the single matches that excite me the most, or the multi-man matches that excite me the most, rather than the tag matches. But on this card, where Balor versus Rollins, I'm excited by. I actually still reckon they might stick this in the main event, mainly because of the storytelling and the fact that Roman Bloody Reigns is in it. But you might be right. Or they might do that double. Oh, saying that it's a gimmick pay-per-view. It's got the Money in the Bank match. But so yeah, we'll see what they do. I'm unsure who's winning it. I think it's going to have to further the story. Like, they can't just end the feud with the Usos overcoming Roman Reigns and then live happily ever after. Yeah. So it won't surprise me if Roman's got something up his sleeve to punish the Usos, or maybe something happens that takes out one of them, and then one of them gets like a singles plucky babyface run against Roman, then who gets annihilated, and then I reckon Jimmy's going to get taken out. Something's horrible is going to happen to Jimmy, horrible is going to happen to Jay, and then Jimmy's going to go up against Roman one-on-one, lose, get destroyed. And then Jay's going to have a big storyline where he finds his redemption, loses, doesn't get the title off Roman, but reclaims his honor. That's where I think this is going. And for that to happen, I think the Usos need to lose here. And the tribal chief needs to get a measure of his heat back. Because right now, he looks like a bit of a wimp. And the super kick king Usos have got all the momentum after bashing him in the face. So Roman needs to remind us all why he's the big bad. Crushing the cousins somehow via cheating is the way to do that. See, I don't think the Usos will turn on each other here. I think they've committed to that story. I think it'd be that awesome moment last week would be cheapened, in my opinion. If they were to do that, it would be another swerve on top of a swerve, a hat on top of a hat. It would just be a bit pointless. I now want to see the redemption of the Usos. I want the money match here, before the Sami Zayn stuff, before any of this. The money match here was a Jey Uso, Roman Reigns. It's been that way since they had their original feud, and Roman choked out Jimmy. And then forced Jay to say I quit. That still needs resolving. That, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of long-term storytelling, that still needs to be resolving. And the only way you can resolve that is for something horrible to happen to Jimmy, and for Jay to go after Roman and be like, right, mother trucker, I'm gonna. This is for my brother. This is for my family, and I'm gonna put you down, big dog. That, I think that's where they need to go. I think Roman Reigns is losing that title at WrestleMania to Cody Rhodes, but I think this is like the Sami Zayn story. Sami Zayn didn't need to beat Roman for the title to get his redemption. He needed to be the one to fracture the bloodline, because he's more. Do you remember a few months ago I was saying Sami's only just turned babyface, that he's still got roads to travel before he's travelled it now. He's done that. He is now that's one of those top faces. Now it's the Usos' turn to tread a similar path, their own story. And I've been going on, so I'll let you say something.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I agree with a lot of the kind of the broad aspects there. For me, I think it goes one of two ways. I think you either have Roman and Solo basically remind people who they are, and they absolutely destroy the Usos, like as in completely destroy them. Or the other one would be that I think it'd be Jay personally gets the pinfall on Roman, because they made a big thing about Roman not being pinned, and the last person to do it is Baron Corbin. There's been a couple of DQs in there as well, but like in terms of actually pinning someone, it's that hasn't happened since Baron Corbin. So having them in a tag match, it wouldn't be the worst thing if Jay gets a pinfall victory, like even if it's just like a sort of like a small package or a cradle or something where it's a very quick 1, 2, 3 after a decent match. It would then kind of lend into, actually, you call yourself the head of the table, but you just got beaten by me. So put it on the line, show me that you actually are, and that kind of goes into a singles run from there. And you can even have Solo versus Jimmy as well, and that can kind of really help Solo, because you can get Solo over in a singles, or Solo being a solo, and go from there really. So I think it might be the latter. I think we might see a victory by Jay, and even then we might see a victory by Jay and then a beatdown. But I think, as you said, we need Roman to remind people why he's the big dog, why he's the kind of the final boss, etc. in WWE, and that's the way to do it. It somehow has to end where Roman is walking out with a bit of a shocked O2, being like, "Wow, that was a bit much." If that makes sense. So yeah, one of those two options. Go on, mate.
Oh, sorry. What is the next pay-per-view?
The next pay-per-view, I believe, actually isn't until SummerSlam, because this is technically the July pay-per-view.
Right. So are we thinking Jimmy or Jay, one of them versus Roman in a singles match at SummerSlam? Yeah. Because that's money. That is a huge deal if they do that. And I can see the road to that beginning now.
I also see it the way you see it as well, is that Jay, well, I don't think one of the Usos wins the title, but I think it does kind of still establish them, because they can still be a tag team, but they're not breaking up. They can just do it because it's obviously a natural progression in terms of this storyline. But also, it's very clever because it keeps the belt on Roman for another couple of months. He racks up those like that dates, and that kind of reign continues. And then before you know it, we'll be in the back end of the year, and he just needs to get through to the Rumble, and then you set up potentially Cody versus Roman Part 2.
Yeah,
so it's a clever way of wrapping Roman in cotton wool in terms of his title reign, and still make it that he's in something interesting.
I've said it a million times before. They've got to get to a point where the Usos story is kind of resolved, and they're good guys by Mania. Maybe they can win the titles. Maybe somebody beats Sami and Kevin at some point, and then the Usos go on to feud with them. And a year later, they're getting the big babyface victory, and maybe Sami and Kevin actually come out and celebrate with them and say, well done, you got back, you got to where you needed to get. I like that idea, but yeah, I think Roman needs to feud with Jimmy, needs to feud with Jay. Usos get the redemption, then he needs to feud with Cody. But I love the idea that by the time he's feuding with Cody, he's still got Solo Sikoa, but Solo Sikoa is now, there are cracks in this. Solo is doubting his loyalty. And I love the idea of at Mania, Cody just jumps off the apron. No, sorry. So I've said this fantasy booking. I've done this so many times. I've said this so many millions of times. Solo jumps off the. No, you do it. I think Roman's title reign, it needs to end at WrestleMania. I think it's disrespectful to it to end anywhere else. And he's got to be alone, where he has to fight and has to lose. Because while he still had a functional bloodline, it wasn't time. Like, this is what I realized about Mania now. I know we were all deflated a little bit when Cody lost at Mania, but it was too early. Roman Reigns needs to be alone. No Solo, no Usos, no Sami, on his own. In fact, I think they all need to be together. Maybe stood on the ramp watching him, shaking their heads at him. I'd love that. That'd be amazing. Like, the entire bloodline have maybe squashed their beef and are all kind of together again without him. the head of an empty table, a chief without a tribe. They've said it before.
Yeah, and I reckon I think that is going to come to fruition. I find it very strange that people think that this is Roman's redemption and he's going to go on to be a babyface because he's been betrayed. I certainly don't. I don't see it that way. And maybe in the long run he can go back to being it, but his journey in this storyline, and I've said it on a few times on Twitter, people need to understand the whole thing is like a sort of I don't know, like a really strong example of gaslighting. And then basically the whole way through, Roman's been using people. He's been telling people what they want to hear while kind of like using them for his own benefit. He has to lose. He has to be, bad guys don't always win. And, like that, I know that kind of goes against the saying and stuff, but the bad guy has to lose. You have to see him. That's what everyone is investing in this storyline for. You need to see Roman Reigns ruined. Like, he has to be brought down, his ego has to be put in check, and only then can we really see him as potentially a good guy, because he's done some proper like shady stuff to be where he is, and he's kind of messed over his family at times, he's messed over his friends, and I'm sure when it's all said and done, Solo won't be there, the Usos won't be there, and even Paul Heyman probably won't be there.
How do you make a villain become a hero? You make a villain become a hero by first they're defeated by a hero. First they are defeated. The hero. Say again.
He has to be humbled because he's so egotistical. Unless you can make him humble, like there's no way that you can kind of ever really get on any kind of wavelength with Roman at the moment.
And I think as well, and for that villain to then become an anti-hero and maybe a hero again, they then need to come up against a bigger villain and lend a hand to the hero in taking down that. And that is how you make a babyface. They've done it. They've done that loads of times. Like Samoa Joe's face turn when he was on commentary, he was still a grumpy heel commentator. AOP and Seth Rollins got in his face, started bullying the commentators and things like that. And they go move, and Samoa Joe just stands up and he's like, move me. Now they do, and they did, and they beat him down. But Samoa Joe was my hero after that. He was already brilliant, but that's what they've got to do. I think he's got to lose. He's got to lose everything. The belt is the one ring. While he's holding the one ring, he's corrupted by it. Once he loses it, once the one ring is gone and in someone else's possession or is burnt in the fires of Mount Doom, only then can he emerge. Can he go, oh, they did it beautifully in NWA with Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis became this egotistical monster when he held Sweet Charlotte, the World's Heavyweight Championship. And once he lost it to Trevor Murdoch, who he had been harassing and bullying, he almost woke up as if from a dream and was like, wow, what became of me when I held that thing? Don't get me wrong, I want to reclaim it because this is the sport we are in. But I am never becoming that again. Now, he can in another promotion, but that was good storytelling. It was the power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's age-old storytelling. They need to grind Roman Reigns to dust, then they can build him back up as a hero slowly. Like he's never going to be more over than he is now. So to create a babyface, you need good storytelling, which is never what they really had with Roman Reigns, which is why the fans rejected him. But they have it now.
Yep. And I think I would throw a name in there, and I think it's worth watching Imperium become the big bad in WWE. Would be easy for the Usos to go after them because I can quite easily see Imperium take the belts off Sammy and KO, and I can see eventually Gunther being the big boss because that's the way things are being framed at the moment. So let's see how it unfolds, and I think the start of that will kind of be shown inside the O2 next week. So I think the penultimate match of the night will be the women's match, which has got some strange aspects to this one, because when you look at the contestants the superstars that are going to be in this match, you can kind of pair them up somewhat. So you've got obviously not with Dakota Kai, but you've got Damage Control there with Bayley and Io, and then you've got Trish, and she has basically been kind of, well, she's now a heel, obviously, and she's aligned herself with Zoe Stark. So you've got Zoe Stark and Trish being together, which leaves two odd ones out. So I think what we might see is a couple of pairings going on. we might see Zelina, who's babyface at the moment, team up with Becky for a little bit, because you've got to play the odds in Money in the Bank. So there's also a chance for a lot of backstabbing in this. There's also a chance that the dynamics change again tonight on SmackDown, because Bayley's got to get through Shotzi tonight to make sure that she's there in the Money in the Bank match. So, intriguing. I think I've never seen the kind of match where there's this many teams together. Well, I know there's only two, but there's two teams together, but it's an individual match. So what do you make of this?
I think you're right, mate. I think it's there seems to be a lot of storylines all going on in this one. So it could be like a Royal Rumble, but it's not. It's just a Money in the Bank match. And Dom is talking about me and Andy, of course, not the beautiful women on the screen.
Yeah, it's bad timing. I don't.
It's funny that. That's not Dom being a perv. That's just Dom looking at us and going, "God, look at the cheekbones on those two men."
Yeah,
that's what that is. You'll be the first to admit it as well. But yeah, so many storylines going on here. Like the Bayley Io Sky thing is just money. I'm loving it. I can't wait to see what happens on SmackDown tonight. Sometimes before, because we've got to stay up so late to do SmackDown tonight, I'm absolutely champing at the bit for SmackDown. I can't wait, because it's not just the Bloodline stuff, it's also the Bayley and Io Sky stuff. So yeah, I knew he would be. Dom's admitted it. There's the Becky Lynch, everything she touches turns to gold. It's absolute straight fire. Her thing with Trish Stratus isn't really for me, but it's a cool wrinkle to the match. And the Zoe Stark, I don't think they should ever let her anywhere near a live microphone. No disrespect to her. I'm sure that won't be the case in about a year's time. She just needs a little bit more practice. But I think she's great in the ring. I think she's going to be amazing in this match. I think she's going to be carrying a lot of it, her and Becky and Bayley perhaps as well. Zelina Vega, her joining NWO and being part of that faction and turning face has actually just has been magic. She's so good. She's so over. Where before she was kind of an afterthought, and the whole thing with Rhea Ripley did wonders for her. And it's lovely to see her now getting the credit she was always due. But for me, I love this. Like Io Sky is overdue a babyface turn now, and I love the idea of Bayley going, "You're going to climb that ladder and you're going to drop it and you're going to give it to me because I am the leader of Damage Control." I can't wait to see these two people implode. I hope they don't do it tonight. I want to see some tension build up. I want Bayley to maybe cost Io, and I want Io to one of them to turn on the other. I don't care how they do it. I'm excited to see what they do. I want to be surprised.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, to me, there's only two people really that I think are favourites in this match. Personally, I think it's either Io or it's Trish. I think Trish having the briefcase would be interesting because obviously you'd have Zoe as a sort of enforcer for her. So there's every chance that they kind of go down that route and and kind of almost give her a guaranteed win. Because I think I'm right in saying that the women's Money in the Bank still has 100% successful cash-in rate. So whereas the guys is kind of to a little bit lower. But most of the time, the women's Money in the Bank gets cashed in the same night. I think it's happened 3 times out of the 5 or something they've had it, or 6. So yeah, it's an interesting one because there's no women's singles match as of yet to be announced. I don't think there will be. So very clever by Oscar or Charlotte, I guess, because they've got a match on SmackDown the night before, or Rhea not to get involved there. So we could see Rhea in the. I think we will see Rhea. I'm like 99.9% sure because she'll be with Dom at the ringside. But yeah, not in a match. So Io Sky, I would put down as my favourite to win it because I think she would be great with Money in the Bank. I think if you see the sort of matches that she could have either against Oscar or against Charlotte or against Bianca Belair, if that kind of happens again, I would be happy with them to run it back because I thought that was a great match that they had at Backlash in Puerto Rico. So yeah, I wouldn't be mad to see Io, and I'm a big fan from her NXT days.
I think she's. Oh, sorry, mate. You weren't finished. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to finish off by saying I think the odds aren't really in Becky's favor because she's going against 2 people that are just going to try and take her out.
Yeah.
Although they have tried to make a big thing about Money in the Bank being the thing that she hasn't won. So they are trying to sow that seed in there. So maybe she might squeak out with it, but I think she's got a little bit of a run left against Zoe and Trish where she doesn't really need that briefcase.
Yeah.
Not for me.
I think Becky, the reason Becky's never won Money in the Bank is because she doesn't need it. She's on a higher level, higher plane of existence than the other guys. Like she's over anyway. We don't. If she was a heel, if she was still big time Bex, being a bit bitchy, yeah, maybe. But I love the idea more of either like Bayley winning it and screwing out and like gloating about it for ages, or I love the idea. Is that my wife? Get used to it. I'm aware it Wednesday night.
Is she not talking about Trish?
No, she's talking. No, she's not talking about Trish. She's talking about my hat. At least I think so. You clarify for us, Jess. You're talking about Trish Stratus or the hat that I always wear that you hate. How dare you? But yeah, I think Io Sky could win it, cash in immediately on Rhea Ripley, and that's why there's not another match on the card, a women's singles match on the card, and then Bayley ruins it for Io. Imagine that, like the big crowd, like they're making this into a mini mania in many ways, so, like they did at Clash at the Castle. Like that would be a cool thing to do for the crowd. I'm cashing in right now. Rhea Ripley, where you at? Let's do this. She's about to beat Io Sky. Money-making, career-making match. Bayley's envy gets ahead of her, ruins it for her. There's your next feud. Money in the Bank finally has its failed cash-in.
Good evening, John. Nice to have you in, mate. And John is saying women's match is intriguing me this year. Men's too, actually. I like the fact that both matches have lots of stories going on within them. Yeah, it's definitely not a... normally they just kind of throw random people in and kind of just say it will be a good match because we've got a big guy and we've got an athletic guy and we've got a fan favorite in there, we've got a heel in there and we've got a giant in there, and they kind of just they try and make sure they've got all those kind of aspects filled. Whereas this year they've gone actually what makes sense storyline wise. So it's definitely something that I guess Triple H's creativity is coming to play here because he wants to make sure it's a good match rather than it just being tropes of, the kind of the superstars that had to be involved, or I should say had to be involved in the Vince. So yeah, really cool to see that there's a lot of threads going on here. So we could see alliances all over the place. We could see backstabbing all over the place, especially in the women's match in particular. But I'll ask you outright, who's walking away with the briefcase?
I'm going to go with my fantasy booking. I think Io's winning. I think Io's cashing in on Rhea Ripley. And Bayley hits her with a steel chair from behind. I think something happens in the match where Bayley wants the briefcase off Io, and Io says, no, this is my time. And Bayley then goes away and stews and then ruins it for Io. And that's because because again, Io's a babyface, she should win it. But again, babyface with the contract is boring as hell. So if she cashes in immediately and then fails because of Bayley, there you have it. Damage control has imploded. There's your next feud for SummerSlam. And a SummerSlam match made up, Io versus Bayley, something they've been building to for a while now. Let's see it. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both John and Martin are both saying that they want Io to win. Even if Martin is expecting Becky to win, it's a head over heart sort of thing. Really interested because unlike the men's, where I said I think it's very mid card, I think you've got a really good mix of people in here. You've got a good mix of storylines as well. So let's see where we get on. So on to what I think will be the main event. Possibly before we cover this off, I do think there is possibility that they add one more match in, which could be Riddle versus Gunther for the IC title. That's the only one I think realistically they've been building into a place where they would put it on Money in the Bank. But I don't know if they're trying to write Riddle off, because he got another beat down, didn't he, on Monday, I think. So it'd be interesting to see if they're kind of going to write him off. But I think if they do put that on, that could be one of those ones where it's match of the night, just purely because it's two people who are very good in the ring. Riddle versus Seth last year at Clash in the Castle was a great match. Just a really good wrestling match, even though they did have that kind of like long feud. But that's the only one that I personally foresee being added, and that could be added in between the ladder match and this if it were to go on. But this is what I think will be the main event, and purely down to the fact that I think they want the tease of a cash-in or an actual cash-in this early. So let us know in the comments if you think we're going to see a cash-in on the night. if you agree with the way I put the match card together with the men's opening and this closing as kind of bookends, then let me know in the comments. It'll be interesting to hear if people will think there's another way that WWE will go. But presuming this is the main event, what have you made of the build between Finn and Seth? I know we did our watch along last week of their match from back 7 years ago at SummerSlam. So yeah, what do you think of the build so far?
I've loved it because it's rewarded my investment as a long-time fan. I'm a big Rollins guy. I'm a big Finn Balor guy. I feel like a little bit like the Joker and Batman. These two are destined to keep bumping into each other in their career. You know, in kayfabe, was one of the good mates in real life. But in kayfabe, I think they're destined to. The two guys of a similar age, similar backgrounds, like Ring of Honor, New Japan. You know, similar frames, and they're almost a foil to each other. And I feel like a lot of what Rollins has said to Finn has been below the belt, has been a bit not on. Like, I've held this a lot longer than you held your world championship reign. Like teasing the injury that he caused. You know what I mean? Like Rollins has come across like a bit of a bad guy, a bit of a heel, and I've kind of felt for Balor a bit when Balor's been like, look at your career, what you've had, Seth, was meant to be mine because I was the guy, I was the chosen one. I came in, I won that belt, I won that clean, and I did this, and so now like Balor's stalking him all over the company, attacking him in NXT, attacking him, on Raw. I'm loving this edgy Balor. But I don't like, yes, I get he's the heel and he's being a bit whiny and he's being entitled, but I find it difficult to not sympathize with Balor, not just because I'm a Balor stan, but I think from a storyline point of view, it's really good because I'm a little bit on the fence as to who's the good guy and who's the bad guy here, or is it not that simple? And are they just two warriors with a history? And and Rollins has gone too far, and now it's spilling out, and Balor's gone a bit nuts. So, in terms of who I want to win, I think Rollins isn't losing this belt anytime soon. They've put it on a babyface to defend it frequently and to be seen on TV, to be the anti-Roman Reigns, essentially, which is how they framed it from the start. So if they were to put it on Balor and he was still a heel, that would kind of go against that promise. And they'll have to go against that promise eventually, but it's a bit too early to do so. But who do I want to win? I want to see Balor win. I really do. That's what I want to see happen. But I don't think it will. I think they won't be able to resist the crowd singing along to Rollins' theme. I think that's where this is going. That's the moment they want to make.
Oh, I think we'll get that, but I think that comes early on. I don't think that necessarily sways the outcome, but I do get what you mean. But again, it's one of those ones where it's interesting because they've kind of got a couple of storylines going on that could affect the outcome, such as does Damian Priest get involved because maybe Finn gets involved to help him, and obviously, effectively, Finn cost Damian Priest his match. So it'd be an interesting one to see what happens. But as John's kind of said, even the kind of tentacles of previous storylines seem to be wrapped around this because you've got Logan and Seth from WrestleManias, like a rematch is probably on the cards at some point. You've got Finn versus Priest, which would kind of break up the Judgment Day a little bit, which maybe wouldn't be the worst thing, but again, they don't have to go in that direction. But yeah, should Priest win the briefcase and then Finn wins here, it'd be interesting to see the dynamics of that unfold. And do they just kind of go for it straight away, or would they let that breathe? So yeah, interesting to see where they go. And as John said, I think if this goes on last as a cash-in, I agree. I really do. But he can't decide who. I believe that's in reference to who's going to cash in. I do agree. I think Seth's probably going to win this one in terms of the actual match. I still think there could be a cash-in because you kind of want a big storyline for Seth going into SummerSlam, and where that comes from, I think is the kind of Money in the Bank side of things, because it makes sense and around the timing as well of when they brought the new title in just before Money in the Bank. you can kind of take that away from Roman. But then again, they've made a lot of hints about potentially Money in the Bank being cashed in on any title. So it could be mid-card titles, it could be the NXT title. So yeah, I don't know. Did anyone get a chance to see Seth's match on Tuesday or probably Wednesday morning for most people in the UK on NXT against Bron Breakker? Seems to do pretty decent numbers. If the dirt sheets to be believed, just below 1 million, it peaked out. So that's big numbers for NXT, which is great.
Yeah.
There were also rumors that they might ask Roman to make an appearance on NXT to spike that figure again. So they're obviously trying to get some eyes on NXT. But I watched it. I thought it was actually a really good show all over. To be honest, they're doing their gold rush where this week and next week are all title matches. Every title has to be defended over the next 2 weeks. So it started with a very strong week. So the Seth match against Bron was pretty standard. There was a really cool frog splash from Seth from the ring to the outside on the announcers table, and I thought Bron looked pretty strong as well, even though he lost. And as you said, they kind of tied it in with Finn being there as well. A couple of comments. Let's just cover those off. John would prefer the ladder match on last. Logan's about to win. Ricochet takes him out. LA wins. Doubt that'll happen though. I mean, it could set up Ricochet versus Logan, which would be cool in terms of the spectacle of two very athletic people just kind of going at it. We saw what they did at the Royal Rumble together. How Priest wins, Finn wins, JD McDonough takes out, I presume that's who you mean, takes out Finn. Priest cashes in, Finn's out of Judgment Day. Interesting. It could be. I keep forgetting that they've teased JD McDonough as being.
See, I got confused there with the JD meaning JD McDonough or Judgment Day. That's what confused me there. I was like,
oh right. Yeah. JD McDonough helps Priest take Finn out. It could be, or they could just kind of have Finn and JD do their thing. That's another kind of intriguing one that could come up. Martin said, I personally think if Priest wins, he takes the IC title off of Gunther and Finn wins the world title. They rack up the championships.
Now that would be cool. They've already teased the whole, Balor going, you're not going to cash in on me, are you? Because technically he could cash in on Roman Reigns. He could still do that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they've basically teased that if Balor wins, Priest would cash in on him. With Balor saying to him, you're not going to cash in on me, are you, if I win? No, mate, no.
John, this is why it's so important to have all these stories going on with the individuals in the match. This year, there's a lot of stories I'm invested in, so it's a win all around. Yeah, yes. I think one of the issues that we had in previous years when it's maybe the product hasn't been as good as it is at the moment, or personally, I think that's what a lot of people feel at the moment, is there was a tendency to basically say you've got these two stories and these are two stories are the ones that you've got to invest in, and everyone else is kind of kicking their heels because they just can't get near it. Whereas now there's definitely a case of let's build that mid-card, let's build those stories, let's kind of have them like reaching all over the place, make sure they mean something. So when they might cross paths in the future, people are like, oh yeah, I remember that match from last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was. So they're doing a great job of that at the moment. I believe this is probably in reply to Martin's potential, fantasy booking, I should say. IC title for Priest. No, has to be Sheamus at Mania next year. There's a lot of love for Sheamus. I know John is a big fan of Sheamus's workout videos. The was it Gaelic Warrior? I can't remember what it's called. Irish workouts, something like that. But yeah, John's a big fan of Sheamus. He's very hot on him at the moment. So I think he's just praying he gets that IC title to complete his collection. So
he has to eventually. He does have to eventually. I think I love the idea of Sheamus dethroning Gunther. I think that's been destined since Clash at the Castle. But I don't think it should happen soon. I think it should maybe happen at Mania and then let Gunther move on to other things and become the big bad to replace Roman Reigns, perhaps. I love the idea of Gunther being the guy to retire Brock Lesnar. How's that for something to hang your hat on? I'm the guy who killed Brock Lesnar. Step up. I am replacing him now as the main monster in this company.
Yeah, especially as Brock could say basically that he's coming to an end of his time in wrestling and he just wants to basically walk out and say, I've won everything. I wouldn't be mad if they kind of frame it around he challenges Gunther for the IC title and Gunther just kind of destroys him in the end, because that would be a cool one to do. As John says, he's very close now to Honky Tonk Man's IC reign. I believe it's actually in the second week of September he'll beat it. So I don't think he's got any jeopardy on the basis that he's not defending here. So the next premium live event he's going to be at would be SummerSlam at the earliest, which would be August in Detroit. So I think he's going to be there and thereabouts. So I don't think they'll have a problem getting him to break that one. But at the moment, that is your Money in the Bank card. I think they're also stacking SmackDown because I believe the night before Money in the Bank inside the O2, we're going to have Oscar versus Charlotte. And we've also, and that's for the, oh God, what's it called now? Is it the Women's Universal Championship?
I don't know what the title. So I know they have a gold one and a white one. No, that's all I know now. They have two world championships that are now non-branded, and I'm confused.
The one that resides on SmackDown at the moment is the one that's on the line.
They've muddied the water with the men's ones because they've done the women's ones as a big gold belt. They've muddied the water with the men's ones, really, because that's no longer big gold belt 2 now, because there's a big gold belt 3. So it's I kind of liked what they did with the belts with the dudes' belts, because they had, the WWE Championship has now absorbed the Universal. Roman's got that and is weirdly carrying all 3. Which is just bizarre.
It's a power move, isn't it? I think it's just. Yeah. I think as soon as someone dethrones him, the other 2 will be gone.
Yeah, hopefully.
Or they'll just go back to having just the WWE Championship, which is what they should have done anyway. Never mind, that's a discussion for a different day. And also, I would personally say I think both the women's ones look a bit cleaner with the white belt compared to the men's ones. But again, just an opinion. We are where we are.
It'll go back to just being the WWE Championship when all this Universal Undisputed silliness is over. Once all that is over, essentially Roman Reigns' new belt is now the WWE Championship, but with the heritage of the Universal with it, which is the right move. And I suppose it makes sense to have a new belt honouring both as well, because even though the Universal Championship has only existed for a couple of years, it's been Vince's favourite belt for some reason. And he's put more importance on that one than he's put on the one he's had for 50 years. So I can't, God knows what's going on inside that guy's head.
But also, talking of some belts that need to change, because I think they need to do something with them, is the tag belts, which will also be on the line at SmackDown when Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens defend against Pretty Deadly. I think that'll be a great match. I think the UK audience will play a big part in that one. So really excited to see how the Pretty Deadly lads are received in London.
Yeah.
Their teeth. So it'd be cool. I think it might be the first time that we've seen Sami and KO not be unanimously cheered for the first time. So yeah, it would be really cool to see that one. I'm sure they'll probably stick another couple of matches on the card for SmackDown, possibly tonight. We'll see going on there. But yeah, feel free to get your questions in, as Martin has done. So Martin has put a question for you both. Is this the best card overall they could have put together? I'm excited for this card, but wanted your personal thoughts. Sam, I'll let you kick that one off.
I'm trying to I would have liked. I'd like the IC belt to be defended because it's a big pay-per-view in a big city. I think it's an important milestone for the company, and I do think Gunther should be defending. If he does it on SmackDown, fair enough, but I'd like it to be on the card. I know it's a completely different continent, completely different country, but I'd kind of like the United States Championship to be defended as well. Not because it's got anything to do with the country, but because it's a belt. I want to see the mid-card belts not be mid-card belts. I want to see them get some love and some importance. And I think the way you do that is to have them defended on big pay-per-views. And because Roman Reigns isn't defending his title, the big gold belt becomes the big one for everybody to have. But it would be nice to have the other two defended too, even if it's just the IC. I think the IC should absolutely be on the card. I can understand the argument for the United States not being, But Gunther needs to be defending that title on this pay-per-view, and I'd very much like them to do that. That would be how they could improve it. In terms of, I wasn't so sure about the roster of the Money in the Bank ladder match, but I think it's very much a Triple H booked card. And I like that who they've included because they're trying to like make stars. Yeah, they've got people like Shinsuke on there as well, but it's nice. Ricochet's always in ladder matches because no one can do his spots like him. But I like the idea of who they've got in it. We don't need the really, really big stars because what they're doing is quite layered and quite smart. Same with the women's. Becky Lynch is in there to be star power. She does not need to win. What is important is making IO and people like that. I reckon. I love that Finn Balor is potentially in the main event with Seth Rollins. I'm a big Balor guy, so seeing him at the top of the card is phenomenal. And I know he's not from the UK, he's from Ireland, but they are our neighbours. We do kind of, at wrestling events, we do kind of adopt the Irish, like Sheamus, Becky, and Finn. So even though Seth is going to get everyone singing his song and all of that, I do think Finn will have there'll be a lot of love for Finn in that arena. He's the one I'll be sharing. But anyway, and if other journalists look at me funny, I'll be like, I'll own it. But anyway,
I would answer that with, and I'll put the question back on. Sorry, from Martin. No, I don't think this is the best card that could have been there, but I don't ever believe that's the case with any premium live event. I think everyone always would fantasy book in their own way.
Yeah.
What I do think is this is a very important premium live event that will actually shape a lot of what they're going to be doing for the next 2-3 months, which is more that I guess can be said for a Clash, because I think maybe they had like 2 big talking points that came out of that. So I think there's maybe a couple of matches short. They're very heavily advertising this as being a special start time of 3 p.m. Eastern, which would mean that we're going on at 8 o'clock. So that either means we're getting about 2.5 hours. At a push, we're getting 3 hours. I think we're about an hour short of what would have made this a standout. And that way you probably could have got one of the women's titles on the line. You definitely could have got one of the mid cards on the line. And to make it like perfect for me, and it's just a complete preference, I would love to have seen a DIY reunion tag match. But that comes later. They've got to let that thing that build, and just kind of throwing stuff in for the sake of it would be fan service. And I don't think that's necessarily what they need to do at this stage. So yeah, I think it's an important card, but maybe not the best card, if that makes sense. I think there's better they could have done. Bear in mind the next one is SummerSlam, which they'll probably go all out on, and that's what the rumours are, because there are a couple of names missing off of here. But I think when the night is over, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed, put it that way.
No.
If anyone else has got any questions, obviously feel free to put them in. And while you're here, give us a like and a subscribe. It really helps myself, and it's great for Sam to be here. He's definitely part of the Wrestling Royalty family at this point. He's almost a co-host, I'd say, as well. So I
can say the same for you, mate, about SmackDown on Give Me a Hall.
That is true. So just before we go, there's a couple of things I just want to tidy up. Another event this weekend is AEW's Forbidden Door. We won't go through it too much, but what I would like to say is, or ask you, I should say, and it's something I would have had a question for Tony yesterday, was, do you think this year's lives up to the first year's event of Forbidden Door?
Yeah, yes, I think so. I feel like I've kind of forgotten last year's Forbidden Door. I remember enjoying it, and I remember being really excited by the prospect of it and hoping they do a second one. But I feel like now it's a mixed bag, because I'm really happy they're doing it again, but I do feel like it's kind of become AEW and New Japan's Survivor Series. I feel like everything else has just been put on hold so they can do this brand versus brand fight and then go back to business as usual. But I think they've done a much better job of layering it in advance. To Tony Khan and AEW's credit, they've done a really good job of not suffering from Survivor Series syndrome with this. It'd be cool if they got Ring of Honor a little bit more involved as well, because that's part of the family too. So that'd be nice. So, but yeah, I am very excited by it. I really wasn't a fan of the last pay-per-view AEW put on. I thought Double or Nothing was, no disrespect to AEW, but I think in my personal opinion as a fan, not as a reporter, but as a fan, I thought it was the weakest pay-per-view AEW have ever put on, ever. I know some people went crazy over the main event and there were some good matches on it, but I just didn't really care about any of the storylines. Where with Forbidden Door, I care about almost every match. These are just, even if this story doesn't interest me, this is a match I want to see. I mean, Okada versus Danielson. I mean,
yeah,
any day of the week, and same with all of them. So, yeah, I'm really excited for it. I feel it'll wash the taste of Double or Nothing out of my mouth. And I'm excited for AEW, and I'm really excited for the next week of wrestling because it's just, I feel like it's WrestleMania all over again, and I'm still recovering from that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I was being hypercritical, I would say what you said about last year's Forbidden Door is kind of actually a neat summary of AEW itself. I think when you're watching one of their pay-per-views, it's a great experience in terms of like, oh, I'm actually really enjoying this. This is a great match. But there's not a lot of substance behind it. There's nothing like massively memorable. And that's one of the issues that I think AEW needs to face up to is how do you make things mean stuff and be memorable outside of all the backstage drama that seems to be going on, because that is what people are talking about at the moment, and that is wrong for me. You need to get the folks back in the ring. As Martin has kind of said there, Punk and the Elite in the same building equals fireworks. I don't think we see any of that. I honestly don't. I would be surprised if we get anything on screen revolving around them. We might get some dirt stuff.
I think they need to tease it. They need to tease it. It's the time isn't right. They need to build.
I don't think they will.
Well, I reckon. See, I have faith in this. I think all of their cheeks have been clapped, every single one of them, and they are secretly. Not necessarily all on the same page as mates or anything, but I think professionally speaking, they get it now. And I've said it before: if Sean and Brett can do business, when they hated each other, I know they're friends these days, but if they can sort it out and do business, anybody can. Anybody, even people as famously difficult to work with as the Bucks and CM Punk. I know Mega sounds like he can be a little bit difficult at times as well. I've never met the man. I've never met the Bucks. I've never met Punk. I'm just going off what I've heard other wrestlers say. I've got no sources there. So if somebody gets annoyed about that, there you go. That isn't a fact. It's just what I hear. Because that has annoyed people in the past on the internet. But
you're going to do an LA Knight thing there.
Yeah.
That's just a fact of life.
Yeah. But it's... something happened on Dynamite the other night where they had loads of different run-ins, and it was and it furthered lots of different storylines at the same time. It got a bit ridiculous and overbooked, but I kind of like that sometimes, and I kind of like that it rewarded my investment a little bit, like this Finn Seth Rollins thing is rewarding my investment. So I remember thinking, but you're right. I do think everything kind of blends into one sometimes with AEW, but then again, I sometimes think it does with WWE. Asked me for a card from a year ago, and I've probably, apart from that, the really cool matches, I've probably forgotten it, generally speaking. I've got a lot of faith in AEW. I think Wembley is going to be their time. I don't think it's make or break or anything quite that drastic, but I do think it'll be a barometer for their success going forward. Perhaps they've done really, really well to sell so many tickets. I'm really, really pleased and happy for them. I'll be there too. I imagine you will be as well. I know what you mean about AEW. I know I'm a little bit more high on AEW than you are, and Dom is. I'm not quite as high on them as Ant is, but I am an AEW fan. I want to love them. I want them to succeed, not to the detriment of WWE. I want everybody to succeed together and do their own thing. Because when wrestling is successful for one, it's successful for all. That is a fact of life. Yeah.
Very nice. A good summary there, and I'll leave the AEW discussion. But thank you for summarising so eloquently there. So before we finish, I did say at the top of the show that I would be making a special announcement, and it probably won't be massive news to some people. It might be big news to others. But basically, alongside Wrestling Royalty, I've decided to start another YouTube channel because apparently I'm a glutton for punishment, and I can't do anything by halves. So I had teased last week. I put a picture of myself running, and to add to that, I was basically waiting for things to kind of fall into place. Things are very, very close. But I will take this moment to announce that my new YouTube channel is coming very soon, and it is going to be called Roller Coaster of Running. I will go into more detail in the future, but basically this is going to be completely away from wrestling. So it's not wrestling related. Although I do have this thing where every time I finish a race, I have to do the Undisputed Era's sign. I don't know why. It's just something that seems to have stuck. So there is a tenuous link to wrestling. But basically, I have a love-hate relationship with running. It served me very well in the last couple of years in terms of losing weight and keeping myself healthy. A big part of my mental health is getting myself out for a little while, whether it's half an hour, sometimes even 2 or more when I'm doing a half marathon. So Roller Coaster of Running is going to be coming very soon. It's a completely separate YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing interviews with some people who are runners as well, and what running means to them, the ups and downs, which is hence the roller coaster side of things. And in November, I am running a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon over the course of 3 days inside Disney World. So another reason why it's called Roller Coaster of Running. I'm really excited. This is a passion project. It's going to be your chance to kind of see my journey through running, all warts and all. You'll see me do some vlogs from training. I've got some events coming up before then. So there's going to be lots of content. It's going to be very different to Wrestling Royalty. Predominantly going to be edited videos rather than live ones. So something for you to stick on in the background while you're doing some work, or if you fancy just kind of like tagging along for the journey that is my running, my races, etc. I'd love to have you along with me. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping it's going to be launching in the next couple of weeks. I would like to have a couple of videos on the channel for people to start watching straight away. So keep an eye out for that. I will be plugging it and hoping for more subscribes and likes and stuff. I've already set up the Twitter. I've already set up the YouTube account. I've already set up the Instagram. So you will see me plugging the heck out of that in the coming weeks as well. So please feel free to support me on that. So thanks very much already for the couple of comments that come through from John. As well as from Martin. It means a lot. It's always a bit scary to kind of be heading something new up. But don't worry, the wrestling side of things is not going away. We will be here every Friday night we can be. We will not be here next Friday. I will try and get a video out in a few days before. The reason why we're not going to be there is because we are going to be inside the O2 this time next week. We might even be just about to be coming out of the O2 this time next week. I hope you haven't enjoyed a great show. Myself, Sam, and Dom will all be in London. I will make sure that we record something, probably just sitting around having a chat. We've also got a lot of other friends who are going to be there, so we'll hopefully be catching up with them, including Martin, including some friends of the show like Scott, who is also going to be down in London as well. Really looking forward to meeting up with you. We'll try and make sure we get time for a beer with you. I'm sure we will do either on the Thursday, Friday, or Saturday day before we have to shoot back up to Newcastle, because I'll be doing a run on the Sunday morning, hence why I've got this channel coming up. It's a busy time. It's a great time. Sam, I've done enough plugging of myself. Let me know what is going on with yourself. Where can people find you? What should people be looking out for on your side of things?
Yeah, a few things first. Martin, send us a Twitter message when you're there, and we'll try and catch up with you. But we're not going to any Waffle Houses, and we'll leave that. Need to know basis, that folks. Yeah, Andy. So you're doing a run that because people might not know this, but Andy and I are driving through the night after the show to get home, and I reckon we'll probably get home around 4 a.m. We're back to Newcastle around 4 a.m.
Yeah, half 3-ish. Yeah,
and you're getting up a few hours later to do a run. Do you know where I'll be?
In bed. Yeah,
yeah. And then I'm going to a party that day at my sister's house. I don't live in. I'm on holiday up there, by the way, guys, that week. So that's why there won't be any. Some of the other boys might do it, but SmackDown stream with me for 2 weeks after this. But yeah, so I'm gonna go to basically a garden party, exhausted, probably wearing whatever t-shirt I bought at Money in the Bank. So that'll be fun. But yeah, so obviously you can find me if you don't know already at Give Me a Hull Yeah podcast at 1 a.m. BST tonight. We'll be covering SmackDown. I'm really excited about tonight. After what happened last week with the Usos super kicking Roman Reigns, like we were all a bit tired and fatigued with the show by that point, and then bang, that happened. I just see our reaction, the people in the comments, and my reaction to that from last week's stream. It's really funny. But yeah, so we do that at the Give Me a Hull Yeah podcast. We cover Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite. Not sure what we're doing for Collision yet. There are plans in place, I imagine. But yeah, we also do a lot of original content too. A lot more of that in the pipeline because we've been talking. You can also support us on WrestleSphere. We'd appreciate if you do it. Now, that's a much more journalistic endeavor than Give Me a Hull Yeah. The purpose of WrestleSphere is to interview wrestlers, write some features, and we'll be representing WrestleSphere at Money in the Bank. We've been invited to the press events, as has Andy representing, is it Rush on Rock? Yeah, so we'll be there representing, Dom and I will be there representing WrestleSphere. And also, if you're a video game fan and you want to read some of my articles, features, and reviews, you can follow me over on Deserto.com, where I'm doing a lot of work about on Diablo 4 at the moment. And I wrote the review for it and a few other things. So, yeah, video games and wrestling, my two favorite things.
And even better because you get a chance to occasionally to play wrestling video games. So it's always nice when those two things collide, like 2K and Fight Forever, which is coming up as well. So yeah, definitely check out Sam's work. He's a great writer, great interviewer. So go check out his stuff. And starting with following on Twitter, and then he'll be able to direct you in all the right places, such as Give Me a Hull Yeah or WrestleSphere, and the different channels that they have going on. But we have been going for just over an hour and 20. It's been great to get excited. Hopefully you're getting excited about next week's show. Join Sam in a few hours over on Give Me a Hull Yeah for what promises to be a big lead-in. I guess it's the Go Home SmackDown show for next weekend. Promises to have some good matches on there. And I hope you all have a lovely weekend, whether it's raining or shine, because it looks like it's all mixed in the UK. If you're a bit further afield, have a lovely weekend. And we will see you at some point next week. And look out for any kind of live videos that we're doing, live streams, in case we decide to do that. It might be a bit last minute. We will do something, I promise you, something will be going on. Really looking forward to seeing everyone next week. And if you are traveling to the O2, have a lovely time. Come say hi if you see us. Always good to see other wrestling fans kicking around. But for now, and I do this every time, I'm Andy. He's Sam. This has been Wrestling Royalty. Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.